It all started with a silly lie to fool my parents, and ended with my best friend moaning my name in the dark, saying he didn't know how to live without me anymore. What started as a lie ended up being the only true thing I've ever felt. I've never been the type of person to follow the script, the perfect daughter, number the model student, number the ideal girlfriend, not even close. But my parents always tried to fit me into these roles, as if life were a little theater where everyone is born with memorized lines. And I just wanted to breathe without feeling the weight of judgment in their eyes. That's why I lied. It wasn't a cruel lie, the kind that hurts for pure pleasure. It was a lie of survival, a lie told with trembling hands and a fast-beating heart, because I was tired of being the eternal cause of worry. "I'm dating," I said, looking straight into my mother's eyes. She dropped her cutlery on the plate, as if I had just said I had joined a cult. My father just raised an eyebrow, that silent gesture that said, "Let's see how far this farce of yours will go." But the worst part was yet to come. I needed a boyfriend, urgently, and that's where Ian comes in, my best friend since high school. Intelligent, sarcastic, mocking, and absolutely gay. Ian was my platonic soulmate, the kind of person who understands even silences. I found him sitting on the floor of my living room, eating French fries straight from the bag, while watching a documentary about serial killers. "Do you want to be my boyfriend for a month?" He looked at me, chewed slowly, and answered, "Only if I can wear the leather jacket you hate." That's how it started, with laughter and inside jokes. He came home holding my hand, said mother-in-law to my mother, and hugged my father as if he had been a son-in-law for years. And I swear, it was the first time I saw my parents really look at me with pride, and it hurt. It hurt more than I expected, because it was all a lie. But then we started going out more. We started acting like couples. Kisses on the cheek, hands intertwined, ridiculous nicknames like baby and honey. But between one farce and another, different silences started to happen. Longer looks, longer touches. One night, after dinner at my parents' house, we went back to my apartment. I took off my shoes. He opened a beer. We sat on the couch, exhausted. The TV was on, but no one was paying attention. I turned to him and said, "Sometimes I forget that this is all a lie." He didn't answer. He just looked at me. That look, it wasn't the mocking Ian's. It was different, one I had never seen before. And that's when everything started to go wrong. The first time he kissed me for real, it wasn't an act. It wasn't for an audience. It was in my room, 2 weeks later. We had argued over something stupid. I was crying. He was trying to calm me down. And then he just kissed me. And I let him. I wanted him. Every second, every breath. It didn't feel like friendship. It didn't feel like need. It felt like fire. Real. We were trapped in each other that night. Clothes thrown on the floor. Hands finding new paths. Bodies in tune as if they had always been waiting for that moment. It was hot, confusing, desperate. As if everything we felt had been trapped for years and had finally exploded. But the next morning, the silence was heavy. He avoided my gaze. I pretended that everything was fine, but the truth is, nothing was. Because now I didn't know what was real anymore, and that was just the beginning. I didn't know if he was running away from me or from himself. Waking up next to Ian should have been funny, or weird, or at the very least, embarrassing. But it was just emptiness. a silence that squeezed my chest, as if everything that had happened the night before was a dream. The kind you try to hold on to when you wake up, but it slips through your fingers. He got dressed quickly. He didn't even want coffee. And the worst part? He didn't even look me in the eye. "It was a mistake, right?" he said, as he put on his sneakers. His voice was low, almost whispered. "We were vulnerable, that's all. Vulnerable." The word had been hammering in my head all day. We have sex. He touches me like he's wanted me for years. And now he says it was just vulnerability. I wanted to scream. I wanted to break something. I wanted him to look at me and tell me he felt the same way I did. But all I could do was fake a smile, shake my head, and say, "Yeah, that's all it was. Lies. All lies." In the following days, he disappeared. He didn't respond to messages properly. He made up excuses not to come over. When we saw each other, the energy between us was tense, full of pauses and silences that didn't exist before. It was as if we were walking on broken glass, afraid of bleeding too much. But what hurt the most was the way he avoided touching me. Not even a proper hug, not even a caress of my hair, like he always did. And every time I tried to bring up the subject, he changed the subject, as if it didn't matter, as if we hadn't crossed a line from which I, at least, didn't know how to come back. Until one night, I freaked out. "Are we seriously going to pretend that didn't happen?" I asked, standing at the door of his house, soaked from the rain, my heart in my throat. "You can pretend for everyone, Ian, but don't pretend for me. I was there. I felt it." He was silent for a second. Then he came with that look he used when he was about to say something that hurt. "Do you think it's easy for me?" he replied, his voice firm but choked. "You're my best friend. I'm gay. Gay, you know? What happened between us? Messed me up. Made me question everything. Do you think I want to feel that way? And you think I'm not confused too? At least you can like me without freaking out about it." That was like a punch, because he was right. And at the same time, he wasn't. It wasn't just about power. It was about feelings. And what I felt for him wasn't just friendship anymore. It wasn't just desire. It was something deeper. A constant longing even when he was there. A desire that burned inside me. A desire to say, "Stay. Choose me, even if it hurts." That night, he cried, and so did I. He hugged me tightly as if apologizing without words, and we slept together. But this time there was no kissing, no touching, just the comfortable silence of someone who doesn't know what will happen, but still wants to be there. We continued to pretend to be dating for a few more days. My parents were still happy. I smiled in the photos. He held my hand as firmly as ever. But inside, we were falling apart. And then came my mother's birthday. A big dinner, full of relatives whose names I didn't even remember. Ian showed up looking gorgeous, wearing a navy blue dress shirt that made his eyes stand out. He gave me a kiss on the forehead, the kind that always disarmed me, and called me love so naturally that I wanted to cry. During dinner, my aunt asked, "So, when's the wedding?" Everyone laughed, except us. Ian looked at me, and for a second I thought he was going to say something impulsive, but he just smiled and changed the subject. That's when I understood. He was tired of pretending, of fighting something that not even he knew what it was. And maybe tired of me too. That night, in the car, he sighed deeply and said, "Maybe we should stop this. The act, before it hurts more." My heart sank, but I just nodded. "Okay, if that's what you want." But it wasn't. And apparently, it wasn't for him either. Because when he dropped me off at home and I was about to get out of the car, he grabbed my arm. And in that touch, in that simple gesture, I saw everything. The fear, the doubt, the desire. And before I could say anything, he whispered, "I think about you, even when I don't want to, even when I'm trying to convince myself that this is all just confusion. You're there." I froze, and so did he. Neither of us knew what to do with it, but we knew it was real, even if it still hurt, even if it was wrong, even if it didn't have a name, because the truth is, the lie was over, and now, we didn't know how to go back to before. We tried to move away, but it was as if the universe found a way to push us back together. After that night in the car, everything was suspended. It was no longer a pretense, but it wasn't the truth in every letter either. It was a strange, close, uncomfortable middle ground, and at the same time, impossible to let go of. He said he thought about me, even though he tried not to. And me? I lived with his name stuck to my chest, like a constant echo. In the following days, we avoided each other, not out of hate, nor anger. It was just fear. Fear of facing what we were becoming. Fear of looking in the mirror and realizing that what started as a joke was now the only place we wanted to be. But fate, that bastard, has no mercy on confused people. The following week, his mother was hospitalized. It was a minor thing, but enough to unsettle anyone. And who did he call in the middle of the night? Me. "I'm going to the hospital with her. Can you go with me?" Of course I went, without thinking, without hesitation. I felt that he needed me, and deep down, I needed him too. I always did. At the hospital, he held my hand as if it were the only anchor in the world. There was no more character. There was no theater. There was only him, vulnerable, scared, human. We stayed together on the hard bench in the reception area until dawn. I lay on his shoulder. He rested his head on mine. No words were spoken. But in that silence, there was everything. There was more truth than in any stolen kiss or disguised touch. When his mother was released, he thanked me with his eyes. He took me to the car, opened the door for me, and before I got in, he pulled me in. He hugged me tightly, not with desire, with affection, and it was there, in that unhurried hug, that I understood. He was starting to love me too. I just didn't know how to deal with it. After that, he started coming over more often, not as a fake boyfriend, nor as a gay best friend. He came because he wanted to be there. Sometimes we cooked, other times we just played video games, or watched horror movies until we fell asleep cuddled up on the couch. And little by little, the barriers we had put up began to fall. One night, rainy and hot, like all the nights that mark us, I got out of the shower with a towel on my head and an old t-shirt on my body. He was in my kitchen, with his back to me, cutting tomatoes as if he had lived there for years. The scene caught me off guard. It was intimate. It was beautiful. "Did you know that you look good even when you cut tomatoes?" I said, laughing. He turned around with a crooked smile. "And you look good even in that hideous t-shirt from 2009. Hey, that t-shirt has a story." "I bet it's tragic." "Like us," I replied without thinking. His smile faded. The tension returned. A second of silence that weighed more than any scream. "Do you think we're tragic?" he asked, his voice low. "I don't know," I replied, moving closer. "But I know it's real, and it's been a while." He left the knife in the sink and stared at me. His eyes were confused, yes. but they were also hot. The kind of look that searches for answers in the other person's body. "You know I've never been with a woman like that," he said, swallowing hard. "Really? And do you think I've ever been with someone who knew me like that?" He took a step. I took another. The kitchen disappeared. The whole world disappeared. We kissed there, amidst spices and uncertainties. And this time it was different. It wasn't just impulse, nor need. It was affection. It was surrender. It was someone saying with their touch, "I still don't understand what's happening, but I want to find out with you." That night, we made love. We didn't have sex. We made love. It was slow, intense, full of trembling hands and long looks. He touched me as if he was afraid of breaking something, as if I were made of glass, and at the same time, fire. And I touched him as if I were writing poetry with my fingers on his body. Every moan was a confession. Every kiss was a promise. It was hot. It was real. It was beautiful. Afterwards, we lay together. He had his head on my chest, drawing invisible circles on my belly with the tip of his finger, and out of nowhere he said, "I'm scared." Of what? Of losing myself, and of losing you too. I kissed the top of his head. "We only get lost when we try to run away. Stay. Just stay." He stayed, that night, on my chest, in my world, but the fear didn't go away, because love, when it comes by surprise, scares more than any absence, and what was being born there was love. It was impossible to deny, but could we live this without falling apart along the way? The worst part of loving someone is not knowing if they'll stay when the feeling becomes a burden. He stayed that night, but the next day, he wasn't the same anymore. He woke up quieter. He walked around the house as if he were stepping on invisible shards, and avoided looking at me for more than 3 seconds. I knew Ian like the back of my hand, and I knew when he was creating an escape before he even realized he wanted to escape. And he did. I just didn't know from what exactly. From me? From us? Or from himself? The following days were a minefield. He still came to see me. He still lay with me on the couch, laughed at my bad jokes, sang out of tune when that random road trip playlist we loved came on. But something changed. Now he hesitated before kissing me. He kissed me, but then quickly pulled back. He touched my face, as if he were allowing himself a second of courage before diving back into fear. And at night, when we slept together, the silence between us stopped being comfortable and became an unanswered question. Until one morning, after another sex session full of muffled sighs and long looks, he said, "Do you think I'm lying to myself?" I was lying on his chest, with my head nestled in the place where his heart beats the strongest. I got up slowly and stared at him in the dark. "I think you're trying to understand who you are, and afraid of what you'll find." He was quiet for a while, the kind of silence that throbs. I spent my whole life telling myself who I was, who I needed to be. When I came out as gay, it was like everything finally made sense. I found my place in the world, you know, a name for my pain. And now, you, United States, this thing that's happening disarms me. It completely confuses me. Ian, liking me doesn't make you any less of yourself. But what if I'm wrong about everything? Then we'll find out together. He looked at me as if that was the most absurd and, at the same time, the most beautiful answer anyone had ever given him. He pulled me close and whispered, "I'm so scared." "Me too," I replied, "but I'm here." And for a while, that was enough. We began to live an unspoken relationship. We were everything, without putting a name to anything. He woke me up with coffee, took me to work when he could, made a point of spending Sundays with me and my family. My parents no longer questioned anything. They thought I had finally found myself. Little did they know how lost we both still were. But it was when we were alone that the world stopped spinning. He looked at me as if he were trying to memorize the other with his soul. He kissed me as if he knew that maybe one day he would need to stop. He made love to me as if our time had an expiration date. And maybe it did. What was passion became habit. What was doubt became desire. And what was a joke turned into a feeling. And then came the downfall. One night, he called me with a strange voice. "I need to tell you something." "What?" "I kissed a guy yesterday. The ground went out from under my feet." "Okay, and?" "It was quick. Nothing major. I was with friends. He approached me. I didn't plan it." "And did you feel anything?" "Number. It was just a kiss. But I needed to know if I was still me, you know?" I swallowed hard. I understood, but understanding didn't hurt any less. "You don't owe me an explanation, Ian, but thank you for being honest." "Are you angry?" "I'm trying not to be. I'm just trying to figure out what's real. If it's you, or if it's the need, if it's the comfort, if it's the fear of loneliness, if it's just because I love you as a friend and we got it all mixed up." "You're not mad. I'm trying not to be. I'm just trying to figure out what's real. If it's you, or if it's the neediness, if it's the comfort, if it's the fear of loneliness, if it's just because I love you as a friend and we got it all mixed up. I'm not mad at you. I'm just trying to figure out what's real. If it's you, or if it's the neediness, if it's the comfort, if it's the fear of loneliness, if it's just because I love you as a friend and we got it all mixed up. What if it really is love? Silence, long, heavy, the kind that changes everything. "What if it is?" he replied. "What if I don't know what to do with it?" I took a deep breath. I wanted to scream. I wanted to tell him to go away. I wanted to beg him to stay. But all I could say was, "We only know by living, feeling, throwing ourselves in, and maybe getting our faces cut. But running away won't bring any answers." He hung up. He didn't say anything else. And in that silence, I knew he was going to move away. I spent days without hearing from him, unread messages, ignored calls. It was as if everything we had built had gone up in smoke. I cried alone in my room, hugging his t-shirt, listening to that song we always listened to after making love. And I kept asking myself, was it just need? Just loneliness? But nothing in me could believe that what we had wasn't real. Because if it was just need, then why did it hurt so much? And if he was so lost, why did his eyes shine like that when he looked at me? Maybe we needed to lose each other first, to find each other later. But at that moment, all I knew was that he was gone, and I didn't know if he would come back. Sometimes, we just need to really fall to know who will have the courage to come back and help us get up. He disappeared, not in the literal sense, but in a worse way. He disappeared from me. He disappeared from the messages, from the places he used to go, from the shared playlists. He disappeared between the lines. He left only the echo of everything we were, without leaving anything concrete for me to hold on to. In the first few days, I was angry. I was hurt. I felt ridiculous for having believed that things could be different, that we could be different. But then, I just felt empty. And it's in that place in the emptiness, that love hurts the most. The weeks passed slowly, as if time dragged on purpose just to make me remember him in slow motion. Everything reminded me of him. The way he folded his shirt when he took it off, the faces he made when he ate something sour, the way he scratched the back of his neck when he was nervous. It was as if his body was still embedded in my sheets, in my days, in my chest. And the worst part? No one knew. My parents thought everything was fine, that we were still together, strong, in love. And I kept up this lie because the truth was too big to fit into words. "What about Ian?" my mother would sometimes ask. "Okay, busy, work, stuff like that," I would answer, forcing a smile that hurt at the corners of my mouth. But inside, I was screaming. I was screaming for him. And nothing. No message. No sign. Until one day, almost a month later, he reappeared. I was leaving the supermarket. It was raining lightly, a paper bag tearing in my hand, and he was standing on the other side of the street. Black t-shirt, messy hair, his eyes exactly the way I remembered them. Confused, intense, wanting to say everything, but not having the courage to start. He crossed the street, slowly. "Hi," he said, with that low voice he only used when he was nervous. "Hi," I answered, unable to control the tremor in my voice. "Can I take you home?" "You can," I replied, but it was a lie. He couldn't do it anymore, not after abandoning me in that sea without a life jacket. But I got in the car anyway, because love isn't about deserving, it's about feeling, and I still felt it. On the way, the silence was a character in its own right, a ghost between the two of us. "I was a coward," he said suddenly, stopping the car in front of my house, but without hanging up. I didn't say anything. I waited for him to continue. I was scared by what I felt, by what I feel, because you messed up everything I thought I understood about myself, and I thought that if I walked away, if I kissed other people, if I avoided looking at your picture, it would go away. And it did. He looked at me with teary eyes. Number. It only got worse, because with every attempt to run away from you, I realized that I was only sinking deeper into you. That broke me down. I wanted to hit him, cry, ask him why the hell he did that to me. But all I could do was reach out, touch his hand, and whisper, "So why now? Why today? Because I'm ready. Ready to admit that I love you, and not as a friend, or as comfort. I love you in a way that scares me, but also saves me." I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and let those words fill me like rain after a drought. I love you too, Ian, but I'm broken, and I don't know if I can let you in again without fear that you'll leave again. He held my face with both hands, with the same care as someone holding a secret. "So let me help you put the pieces back together. I don't promise perfection or certainty, but I promise not to run away anymore." And there, in front of my house, with the rain beating on the glass, he kissed me, a calm kiss, warm, full of longing and regret and desire and love, a kiss that said everything we had tried to bury in the last few weeks. We walked into the house together, without rushing, without masks. And that night, we made love as if we were finding our way home again. It was different from the other times. There was no rush, no desperate sweat. There was calm, there was touching, there was eye contact. There were words whispered in the ear between one kiss and the next. There was a moan of "I missed you," with our mouths half open. It was as if we were saying, "This time, it's for real." Afterwards, lying down, curled up in each other, he said, I'm still discovering myself. I'm still confused. But I want to do this with you. One step at a time. Me too. One step at a time. And that's how we started to rebuild. No labels, no unattainable promises. Just love, just desire. Just two hearts trying to learn to beat together, even if they were born in completely different rhythms. But deep down, that's what loving someone is all about, right? Learning to dance even if the music is new. Some love stories don't start when people fall in love. They start when they decide to stay, even when everything seems like a mistake. After that night, everything changed, but not the way movies show, with happy endings and perfect soundtracks. It changed slowly, based on stumbles. I'm sorry. I think I messed up. And also, I'm trying, I swear I am. Ian was back. This time, whole. Or at least, as whole as someone confused can be. And me, I was still patching up the holes he left when he left. But something was different now. He stayed. Every time fear tried to push him away, he chose to stay. This was new for both of us. The first week, we started over like someone groping in the dark. He picked me up from work, made me coffee, and waited for me with a simple dinner. Noodles with grated cheese, which was our signature dish. I laughed at that, and he said he only laughed because he hadn't yet tasted the special seasoning. Love and laziness. And at night, we lay down hugging each other, but we didn't always have sex. Sometimes we just slept cuddling. Other times, he cried in my lap, saying he felt lost between being who he always was and who he was perhaps becoming. And I, even though I was hurt, said, "You don't need to have all the answers now. You just need to keep choosing to stay." But of course, life doesn't leave anyone alone for long. The bombshell dropped on a Tuesday. We were having lunch at my parents' house, and everything was going well until my mother said, "So, Ian, I heard your mother told a friend that you two are living together." He and I exchanged a quick look. That silent panic. Living, that's an exaggeration, right? He replied, laughing nervously. "I only sleep there sometimes. It's practical." "Sometimes?" My father raised his eyebrow. "It's been almost a month since you've shown up here with the same, 'Yes, I am a son-in-law' look." Silence. Heavy. Cutting. And it was in that silence that my mother said, with a delicately acid smile, "We just want to know what you're getting into. Because look, it's time to take life more seriously, right? No more joking around." Ian swallowed hard, and then he looked at me. Long, intense, the kind of look that said, "I'm going to tell you. Mrs. Marta, Mr. Jorge, I'm serious, yes. What I feel for her is serious." My heart raced. I love your daughter. I really do. My mother was speechless for a second. My father too. And me? I almost cried right there, with a rice fork still in my hand. But of course, it wasn't going to be simple. "But," my father began, "aren't you gay?" Ian took a deep breath. He looked at me again, as if he were trying to find courage. I thought I was, and maybe I still am, in some way. But the love I feel for her doesn't fit into any box. It's not about labels. It's about connection, about truth. The tension grew thick in the air. My mother closed her eyes and took a deep breath. "Look, son, we don't understand all this, but if it's true, if you respect each other, if you take care of each other, then we'll learn to accept it. It'll take time," my father continued a little stiffly. "But you had the courage to be honest. That's more than most people can do. And there, at that messy table with platters of rice, beans, and roast chicken, something inside me calmed down. It wasn't complete acceptance. Not yet, but it was a start. That night, after we left my parents' house, he pulled me to a corner of the sidewalk and hugged me tightly. "I thought they were going to hate me," he said, his voice muffled in my hair. "They'll learn. We'll teach them." He smiled, but it was crooked. He had something hidden inside. "I need to tell you something." "What?" He hesitated. He ran his hand through his hair. "I got a job offer in another state." My heart sank in my chest. "When?" "In 2 months. It's a good chance. Something I've always wanted. But now there's you. There's us." "Are you going?" "I don't know. I'm lost again. I love you, but I'm afraid that maybe we're living a temporary dream, something that will end when the world hits again." I looked at him. This time, I was calm, stronger than the other times. "We can make it work. Long distance for now. Or you can stay. But only if you want to stay. Not because of guilt. Not because of fear. And certainly not because of me. What if I'm between my professional dream and my dream with you? Then you need to decide which dream is more yours." He pulled me in and kissed me right there, in the middle of the street. A hot, confusing, intense kiss, full of desire, full of love, but also full of doubt. I knew his decision would come, soon. But until then, all we could do was live and love, one day at a time. To truly love someone is to accept that sometimes it will hurt, but still choose to stay. After that kiss in the middle of the street, we continued in silence. A silence that wasn't uncomfortable, but it wasn't light either. It was the kind of silence that carries everything we still can't say, and that somehow also says everything. Ian held my hand as we drove back home. His thumb drew slow circles on the back of my skin, as if trying, in that small gesture, to convince me to wait, to believe. And I waited, even though I was afraid, even though my heart ached at the real possibility that, in 2 months, he would be in another state, in another rhythm, too far away from me. But true love is never safe, right? In the following days, life went on, strangely normal. Coffee together in the morning, inside jokes, improvised lunches, stolen kisses in the hallway of the building, sex with a sense of urgency, as if his body were trying to memorize me with every touch, every moan. And, in the midst of all this, we pretended there wasn't a huge elephant in the room. The change, the decision he needed to make. But every night, when he lay down with me, when he hugged me from behind and whispered, "Stay here with me," it was as if time stopped, as if the future didn't exist. Just the two of us, in that moment, warm, connected, intense. One night, after sex that was slower and more intimate than any other we had ever had, he lay on top of me, with his face hidden in my neck. And he said, "I wish life would let us live this without interruptions." "Maybe the secret is to live even with the interruptions," I replied. He smiled, but didn't answer. At that moment, I realized he hadn't chosen yet, and I needed to prepare myself for any of his answers. The weeks went by, and the suitcases began to appear, discreetly, in the corner of his room. A jacket out of the closet, a book in a box, the acceptance letter from the new company stuck to the fridge with a heart magnet. Every detail hurt, like an unspoken goodbye. Until, one Friday night, he invited me to dinner. Candles, wine, a restaurant with live music, and a different look on his face, a mix of firmness and sadness. "You've already decided, right?" I asked, before the main course even arrived. He nodded slowly. I'll go. I swallowed hard. The tears came immediately, as if they were ready to fall. But, he added, I'm not going alone. What? I want you to come with me. My heart raced. Ian, I know it's a lot. I know you have your life here, your job, your friends, your parents. But I love you, and I don't want to live this without you. I want to build a new story, with you by my side, wherever that may be. We looked at each other for a long time, in silence, with the whole world spinning around us. Do you want me to drop everything? I want you to come with me, but only if it makes sense to you, only if it's also your dream. I don't want to take you. I want you to come. It took me a few seconds to breathe, to process. And then, without taking my eyes off him, I said, Do you really want to know what I think? I do. I already dropped everything once when I fell in love with you. I dropped my fear, my pride, my past. I dropped my comfort zone, and I would do it all over again. He blinked, surprised. So, is that a yes? That's a yes, Ian, but on one condition. What? That you never leave me with doubts again. If you're going to go, go with me completely. No halves, no escapes. He leaned across the table and whispered, For you, I'll go completely. Always. And in that candlelit restaurant, with people around us smiling, unaware of our private storm, we sealed a pact. It wasn't just a change of city. It was a change of life. Saying goodbye to my parents was harder than I expected. My mother cried. My father pretended not to, but I saw him discreetly run his hand over his face. Promise you'll take care of yourself, my mother said, squeezing my hand tightly. I promise, and I promise to always come back. You are my roots. And is he your heaven? My father asked, looking at Ian. I smiled, moved. He is my heaven, my ground. And now, he will also be my new beginning. The night before the trip, we had sex in a different way. Not as a goodbye, but as if sealing a promise. One body on the other. A complete love. Wet kisses, muffled moans, whispered words between panting breaths. It was hot. It was slow. It was us. Skin, desire, love, everything mixed together. And in the end, lying on the mattress with messy sheets and racing hearts, he looked at me and said, We're crazy, aren't we? Totally. But maybe that's what love is. An act of madness, of courage. So let's be brave together. And he smiled before falling asleep with his head on my chest, as if the outside world no longer had any power over us. It's not about happy endings. It's about choosing, every day, to stay where your heart beats stronger. We woke up early on the day of the move. The apartment was a mess of open boxes, clothes thrown into bags, and that feeling of, are we doing the right thing, hanging in the air. Ian woke me up with a kiss on the back of my neck and a lazy smile. There's still time to give up, he whispered, joking. Too late. I've already given up on you in the universe. We hugged there, between crumpled sheets and silent promises. I was afraid, of course. But at that moment, fear was just a backdrop. The protagonist of our story was courage. The courage to try, to love, to start over. The new city welcomed us with a cloudy sky and the smell of rain. I remember that first night well. The new apartment had bare walls, just the mattress on the floor, and an upside-down box serving as a table. But we were together, and that was what made it all feel like home. We ate pizza on the living room floor, laughed about the fact that we didn't have any cutlery, and toasted with plastic cups, as if we were celebrating the most epic thing in the world. And maybe we really were. After the improvised dinner, he put on an old playlist of ours, full of silly songs, the ones we used to listen to in the beginning, when everything was just a joke. But at that moment, each verse seemed like a prophecy. "Do you know what's crazy?" he asked, lying next to me. "We started all this pretending." "Yeah," I laughed, laying my head on his chest. "And now look at us, living the main role of a story that no one would believe if I told it. I would believe, because from the beginning, even when it was just a joke, there was something about you that made me stay. And now, I never want to leave." The days gradually settled down. He started his new job. I got an online freelance job while I looked for something permanent there. We decorated the house with cheap things full of history, every painting, every crooked plant, every pillow with a strange pattern. Everything chosen with the lightness of someone who is creating a home, not just a space. But of course, not everything was perfect. There were days when we fought badly because of routine, tiredness, missing our old worlds. Ian still had bouts of insecurity. Sometimes he wondered if he was fooling himself by loving me so much. What if I only love you because you were the only woman I tried with? What if you love me because I am me, no matter the gender? These conversations hurt, but they also brought us closer. The truth is that we undressed ourselves, in the fullest sense of the word, not just our bodies, but our egos, our masks, our fears. We saw each other for real, and we continued to choose to stay. Time passed quickly. 3 months after moving in, we went to visit my parents. They were more open, more curious. My mother asked questions about the new apartment. My father even laughed at one of Ian's jokes. It was strange, but good. As if, little by little, everyone was understanding that love doesn't have to follow the traditional script to be real. On the weekend, we went to the beach, just the two of us. We walked hand in hand in the sand, like two teenagers. And at night, we made love with the window open, the sound of the sea coming in with the breeze into the room. It was different from that first time. It was no longer urgent, no explosion. It was calm. It was surrender. It was, "I know you are my home, and I can rest here without fear." And afterwards, lying together, he said, "I don't know what I am. I don't know if I'm gay, bi, pan. Maybe I'm not any of those labels, but I'm yours. That's enough. And you? I'm yours too, completely. Even on the days when I'm scared." He smiled, kissed my forehead and said, "I think we won, right? We won, even without knowing it was a battle today, as I write this story." He's in the kitchen, singing out of tune and trying to make coffee without spilling it. Spoiler, he always spills it. We have a little corner just for us. We have plans. We have warm nights and cold days, long conversations and comfortable silences. We have crises, yes, but we also have courage, because the love we built wasn't born from a happily ever after. It was born from a silent agreement that, even when everything seems uncertain, we will continue to choose each other every day. And if one day you ask me if it was worth starting this madness with a fake relationship, I will say, yes, 1,000 times yes, because it was in the lie that we discovered the most real truth of our lives, that love, when it is real, transcends any label, any fear, and it stays.